You've probably heard the classic personal finance advice. You need 3 to 6 months of expenses saved before you can relax. Sounds great, right? There's just one tiny problem. If you're starting with $100 in your bank account, being told to save 6 months of expenses can feel like being told to run a marathon before you've even learned to jog. And that can create a dangerous mindset. If I can't save thousands, there's no point saving anything. That part is wrong. You don't need a huge emergency fund to start building financial protection. You need a first layer of savings. The problem is that people often treat an emergency fund like an all-or-nothing goal. Either you have $10,000 sitting in a savings account, or you have nothing. But real life doesn't work that way. An emergency could be a car repair, a broken appliance, an unexpected medical expense, or a temporary loss of income. And when you have no cash available, even a relatively small expense can push you toward a credit card or loan. That $600 emergency can become a much bigger problem once interest and fees enter the picture. Research from the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau supports the value of having emergency savings, but it does not establish one universal emergency fund number that everyone must reach. Your ideal amount depends on your income, expenses, job stability, debt, and personal situation. Imagine you earn $3,000 a month. You hear that you should have 3 to 6 months of expenses saved, so you do the math. 3 months might mean $9,000. 6 months could mean $18,000. Then you look at your bank account and see $240. Suddenly, saving feels pointless. You might think, at this rate, I'll have my emergency fund sometime around the invention of teleportation. So instead of saving the $20 or $50 you actually can afford, you save nothing. That's the real trap. The problem isn't that your first savings goal is too small. The problem is that you're comparing your starting point with your final destination. Instead, build your emergency fund in layers. First, create a small starter cushion. Your first target could be $250, then $500, then $1,000. But don't treat those numbers as magic. The right target depends on your circumstances. The evidence supports the general idea of building emergency savings and developing a savings habit, but there is no scientific rule saying every person must start with exactly $500 or $1,000. Next, make saving automatic. If you get paid every 2 weeks, automatically move a small amount into a separate savings account. Even if it's only $10 or $25, the goal at the beginning isn't to become rich from your savings account. The goal is to create money that is available when something goes wrong. Research reviewed by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau suggests that automatic saving mechanisms can increase saving deposits and participation. Then, once your starter cushion is established, gradually increase it. As your income rises, your expenses fall, or your debt gets paid down, you can work toward a larger emergency reserve. And keep your emergency money somewhere safe and accessible rather than putting it into investments that could lose value right when you need the cash. Most importantly, don't treat your emergency fund like a trophy that you're never allowed to touch. If a genuine emergency happens and you use the money, that doesn't mean you failed. That is literally what the money was for. Afterward, you rebuild it. So forget the idea that you need thousands of dollars before you're allowed to call yourself financially prepared. Start with what you can realistically save. Set your first target, automate a small amount, and build from there. Your emergency fund doesn't have to be huge on day one. It just has to exist. If this video changed the way you think about emergency savings, subscribe to Brainy Bits Finance for simple, evidence-based money lessons without unnecessary financial jargon. And before you leave, ask yourself one question. What amount can I realistically save this month? Start there, because $50 saved for a real emergency is a lot more useful than a perfect $10,000 emergency fund that only exists in your imagination.